Defeat was certain until we called upon the Ancient Ones. The stars burned cold above the last human fleet. Admiral stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, watching the holographic display with tired eyes. Red dots covered the screen like a disease. Each dot represented an enemy ship. There were thousands of them. The armada stretched across the void like an ocean of death, and humanity had nothing left to stop them. 300 years ago, humans had first reached the stars. They had been full of hope and wonder. They had imagined peaceful contact with alien races and shared knowledge. Instead, they had found the Empire had conquered half the galaxy. They saw other species as nothing more than resources to be consumed. When they found humanity, they did not hesitate. They attacked without warning and without mercy. The war had lasted 40 years of blood and fire across 100 worlds. Humanity had fought with everything they had. They had built weapons that could crack planets. They had created soldiers enhanced with machines and genetics. They had sacrificed billions of lives. And still, it was not enough. There were too many, too powerful, and too ruthless. Now only 12 human ships remained. 12 ships against an armada of 5,000. Behind them lay Earth, the cradle of their species. If the fleet fell, humanity would be extinguished forever. Every man and woman on those ships knew this truth. They prepared to die fighting because that was all they could do. Admiral turned away from the display. Her face was lined with exhaustion and grief. She had commanded the human forces for 10 years. She had watched her friends die one by one. She had ordered retreats from worlds they had sworn to protect. Now there was nowhere left to retreat. This was the end. A young officer approached her. Lieutenant had joined the fleet only 6 months ago. He was barely 20 years old, but the war had already taken the youth from his eyes. He carried a data tablet in trembling hands. "Admiral," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we received a transmission. It came from deep space beyond our borders. The signal is ancient. Our computers almost could not decode it." Frowned. Ancient, how ancient? The language patterns match records from the first contact era, before the war. But Admiral, there is something strange. The message contains coordinates and a single phrase. He handed her the tablet. Read the words displayed on the screen. Her heart stopped for a moment. The phrase was simple but impossible. It said, "We remember our children. Come to us and we will answer." The coordinates pointed to a dead system at the edge of known space, a place called the Hollow. Long ago, before the war, human explorers had visited it once. They had found ruins there, massive structures floating in the void, older than any civilization in the galaxy. Scientists had studied them for decades without understanding their purpose. When the war began, the research station was abandoned. The Hollow had been forgotten. Stared at the message for a long time. She did not believe in miracles. She had stopped believing in anything except the cold mathematics of war. But something stirred in her chest, a feeling she had not felt in years. Hope. She made her decision in seconds. "Lieutenant, set course for the Hollow, maximum speed. Tell the fleet to follow." The bridge crew stared at her in shock. They were abandoning Earth's defense to chase a mysterious signal. It was madness. But no one spoke against the order. They had nothing else left. The 12 human ships turned and vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the armada continued its advance toward Earth. The commanders did not pursue. They saw no need. The humans were running away to die alone in the darkness. Earth would be theirs within days. The journey to the Hollow took 18 hours. 18 hours of silence and fear. The crew did not speak. They prayed to gods they had forgotten. They thought of loved ones they would never see again. Admiral stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars blur past. When they emerged from hyperspace, the Hollow spread before them. It was a graveyard of ancient technology. Broken stations drifted among shattered moons. Massive rings hung motionless in the void, their purpose unknown. At the center of it all floated a structure unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was a sphere 10,000 kilometers across, made of material that seemed to absorb light itself. Its surface was covered with symbols that hurt the eyes to look upon. Ordered the fleet to approach. As they drew closer, the sphere began to glow. Light pulsed from its surface in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Then, a voice spoke directly into the minds of every human in the fleet. "Children of Earth, we have waited for you." The voice was not sound. It was thought made real, pressing against their consciousness like a warm hand. It carried emotions that words could not describe: sorrow, pride, and something that felt like love. Stepped forward, though there was no one physically present to address. "Who are you?" she asked aloud. "We are the ancestors. Long ago, before your species walked upon two legs, we visited your world. We saw potential in your primitive forms. We planted seeds in your genetic code, seeds of courage, of creativity, of endless determination. Then we departed to fight our own war among the stars, a war we lost. We are all that remains." The sphere pulsed brighter. Images flooded through the minds of the humans. They saw the ancestors as they had been, beings of light and energy, neither flesh nor machine. They had created wonders beyond imagination. They had built civilizations across galaxies, but they had faced an enemy even greater than an enemy from beyond the universe itself. The war had consumed them. Only this sphere survived, carrying the last echoes of their consciousness. "We watched you grow," the voice continued. "We watched you reach for the stars. We hoped you would find peace where we found only war. We grieve that fate has been cruel to you as it was to us." Felt tears on her cheeks. She did not remember starting to cry. "Can you help us? That will destroy everything, everyone." There was a long silence. Then the sphere began to change. Its surface rippled like water. Panels opened, revealing machinery that had slept for millions of years. Energy flowed through systems that predated human existence. The voice spoke again, filled with purpose. "We cannot save ourselves. We are echoes, memories preserved in crystal and light. But we can give you one final gift. We can give you the weapons we built when we still had hope. We can give you the knowledge to use them. And we can give you our blessing, the fire of the ancestors burning in your blood." Light exploded from the sphere. It washed over the human fleet like a wave. Every ship was transformed. Hulls strengthened with materials humanity did not have names for. Weapon systems powered up that could tear reality itself. Shields formed that could stop any attack. But the changes went deeper than technology. The humans themselves felt power flowing through their bodies. They felt the weight of ancient memory settling into their minds. They understood things they had never learned. They felt connected to something vast and eternal. Admiral looked at her hands. They glowed faintly with golden light. She felt strong. She felt alive. She felt like she could fight forever. "Return to your Earth," the ancestors said. "Show what the children of the cosmos can do, and remember us. We will watch through your eyes. We will fight through your hands. You are not alone. You never were." The sphere went dark. Its light faded away forever. The last of the ancestors had given everything they had. Turned to her crew. Their faces showed the same transformation she felt. Fear had been replaced by determination. Despair had become fury. They were no longer a beaten remnant fleeing from death. They were warriors carrying the legacy of an ancient race. "Set course for Earth," commanded. Her voice rang with power. "It is time to end this war." The fleet vanished into hyperspace. They moved faster than any human ship had ever traveled. The journey that had taken 18 hours now took only 3. When they emerged above Earth, the Armada was already in orbit. The ships were preparing to bombard the planet. Millions of people waited below, knowing death was coming. Then the human fleet appeared. The commanders did not understand what they were seeing. 12 ships faced 5,000, but these ships were different. They blazed with golden light. They moved with impossible speed, and they attacked without hesitation. The first volley destroyed 300 vessels. The beams of light that struck them did not merely damage, they erased. Where the beams touched, ships simply ceased to exist. Matter was converted to pure energy that fed back into the human weapons. They responded with everything they had. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Missiles, plasma, kinetic rounds, and energy beams converged on the human fleet. The shields held, more than held. They absorbed the attacks and grew stronger. Admiral led the charge personally. Her ship, Defiance, plunged into the heart of the enemy formation. She felt no fear. She felt the ancestors with her, guiding her hands, showing her where to strike. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver was perfect. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of destruction on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. The Armada, which had conquered 100 species, was torn apart ship by ship. Their commanders sent desperate calls for retreat, but it was too late. The humans pursued them with cold efficiency. No mercy was given. None was asked. When it was over, not a single ship remained. The void above Earth was filled with debris and the glow of dying fires. Below, on the planet, people emerged from shelters and looked up at the sky. They saw their ships descending through the atmosphere, trailing golden light like falling stars. They wept with joy and relief. Admiral stood on the bridge of Defiance and watched the sun rise over Earth. The war was not over. There were still forces scattered across the galaxy. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more years of struggle, but the tide had turned. Humanity would survive. They would rebuild. They would remember. She touched the console before her. The golden glow in her skin had faded, but she could still feel the presence of the ancestors in her heart. They had given everything to save children they had never met. They had proven that hope could survive even the death of gods. Smiled for the first time in years. "Thank you," she whispered to the stars. "We will make you proud." Somewhere in the darkness of space, where the hollow drifted cold and silent, a faint light flickered one final time. Then it was gone forever. The ancestors rested at last, their legacy secure in the hands of humanity, and humanity would never forget.